This Joe Rogan guest just exposed the truth behind what we've been suspecting our entire lives. And that's how heavy the CIA's involvement is in hip hop. How the CIA used hip hop to overthrow leaders of other nations to rot their society from within. The guest, Mike Benz, reveals how US aid has given billions of dollars to initiatives that utilize hip hop as their greatest weapon. Not just hip hop, but certain aspects of Black culture that we believe was created and started by Black people. But now that we know, those aspects of Black culture was contrived and created by the CIA. And it was created for terrible reasons, which to me confirms what I already know, which is your favorite rapper. All these rappers are informants, they rats, they government agents, they're COINTELPRO, and their only mission is to rot our society from within. What's really interesting is what he named as their greatest tool, the genre of rap, the type of rap music that they love to use to stir up trouble in other countries. And that genre is conscious, rebellious music. You know, the music that we used to make until magically and mysteriously that genre feels like it's extinct. That genre is no longer the popular genre among Black folks. You know, the music that NWA and KRS-One and others used to create to uplift and wake up Black folks. He says that music that we now look at as as extinct, that's used in other countries to cause uprising, to get the people to stand up against dictators, to overthrow regimes, to get the nation leaders out of here. That music is being used to socially condition and change people's wiring.
But I should note, look at who the biggest sponsor of South by Southwest is in Texas now. It's the military. Go ahead and look up the scandal if you want about South by Southwest Pentagon funding. They've taken over the music industry because it's hearts and minds work. These people become network nodes. They become assets to play with. And, you know, an incredible example of this that I hesitate to discuss here because I know that the organization that these documents leaked from is contesting, these documents. But there's evidence to suggest the same play around recruiting the hip hop artists in Cuba and in elsewhere. Here you go. Breakdancing news: diplomacy meets hip hop as 22 artists visit the U.S. Okay, this is the U.S. State Department. We are paying to recruit them as assets. So when they go and look at the country list, if you want, look how far and wide this is to the edges of the earth. Mongolia, Cameroon. There's a whole thing here, but basically, it was protest rock. It was protest rap in Cuba for that USAID operation. It was protest rap. There's language, for example, in this gray zone report around Bangladesh, and I'll leave it to the current fight, between them and the National Endowment for Democracy about the nature of those documents. But those documents that the gray zone published have two rap songs in Bangladesh that have lines like they were designed to inspire anti-government sentiment and to promote street protests and political reform. I mean, literally writing rap albums to get people to take to the streets and pull off the exact riot that the State Department wants to destabilize the country. And music penetrates. I mean, this is they got really attached to this during the Cold War and in the 1980s because it's and in fact in those documents they talk about how sponsoring individual artists is actually sometimes a lot more effective because they do art and activism. While they're putting on these festivals, they're promoting an agenda at the festivals. While they are putting these songs on radio distribution and supercharging their brand, those songs have themes and messages about taking down authoritarian governments, and the people got to rise up, and you have to represent the will of the people. We have to end poverty. And then they'll make the argument it's the government's fault that there's poverty. We have to end racial or gender inequality, and then the State Department or USAID will be working through its demographic segmentation with those exact groups.
Which is why we're making the Chinese companies sell TikTok. We've been running so many plays in other nations that we're now paranoid is being done to us. See, how it works is when they want a regime change, when they want a president to step down, when they want the people to uprise and create a coup and take out a leader they don't like, they export rap music into those countries. Not just any rap, rebellious conscious music. Relatively speaking, this is usually a very quick process. You export anti-authority music into countries where people, for the most part, has been complicit, dormant, and scared, and you begin to see within a span of 5 years, the culture has shifted. The culture changed. People are now militant. People are now uprising. So they realize, because we've been doing this in other nations, TikTok is the only vehicle that China has that's like the most popular social media site in America. China controls the algorithm. And because we've been destroying other countries, they now understand that China can now destroy our culture and change our culture from within based on the TikTok algorithm. And that's why they've been so adamant, yo, China, you gotta sell this, man. China also understands what America has been doing. So China has a really strict policy on broadcasting hip hop or hip hop adjacent things, such as the culture, such as how you dress, how you talk, how you act. It's heavily censored, bro. This rapper here by the name of Mao Yanka, whatever his name is, bro, he start acting like young boy, man. All right, bro, he start acting a fool. Bro, they got him out of here fast, bro. He got removed from streaming sites within China. Out of here, bro. They said we're not allowing this. We understand how America export culture, and we understand how culture is used to change our society, which is why China right now has not really been that effective, bro. They got a strict ban on Twitter. They really don't allow what America does in other countries. They don't allow for America to export hip hop culture to China or black culture to China. They don't allow it at all. Even the actors are censored. The director of the administration publicity department outlined 4 don't rules on Friday, right? Which is, do not use actors whose heart. Now, this is for like a future broadcast they were talking about. And these were the rules. Don't use actors whose heart and morality are not aligned with the party and whose morality is not noble, tasteless, vulgar, obscene, right? Uh, Actors whose ideological level is low and have no class, they can't even be broadcasted. You will also be a fool to look at how powerful of a tool conscious rebellious music have been for our government to overthrow other governments, and to think that they didn't make a concerted effort, design effort, to make sure that conscious rebellious music is no longer in popular culture over here. It's no coincidence, bruh, that like anti-authority, F the police, that type of rap, that's gone, bruh. Now it's nothing but malarkey. Now it's Coochie Pink and Booty Hole Brown. All right. Now it's mumble rap. Now it's effery. Now it's dude, drugs is cool music. And it was a concerted effort. It was by design. That's why they are signing these artists at masses, which is why I call them informants, COINTELPRO, agents of chaos, and government agents, bro. Because rather is advertently or inadvertently, rather they're doing it knowingly or unknowingly, they're being used by the system to destroy us. And because of that, they are informants and they're government agents. Just by that, these people went so far. Yo, how they went so far in Cuba will really tell you how powerful what we have is. Okay. So Cuba, for the most part, again, this is now beyond music. This is culture now. Culture. Cuba banned Western social media platforms. Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, everything banned. I believe Twitter and Facebook at the time was not out, but like things like MySpace and Facebook and things like that was out. So they banned it. Our government went so far to create a social media site. They created shell companies to make the Cuban government not suspected and to make it appear as if it's a Cuban government social media site. Whole time it was ran and funded by the US government. And they used this social media site to funnel in culture, degeneracy into Cuban society, anti-authority culture into Cuban society to overthrow them. And the first thing they funneled in through that social media site was conscious, rebellious rap music.
Yeah, there's a million of these.
Got it. Here we go.
Yeah. And this is what, 2007? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Way back. Yeah. Well, this was because
during Bush, Condi's and
right. Yeah. And Jared Cohen was kept by Hillary Clinton in the State Department there. He was the young gun whiz kid who was brought into the State Department's policy planning staff, which is really the coordinating the central coordinating place at state that coordinates overt activity by the State Department with covert activity by the Central Intelligence Agency. And so Jared Cohen was a very, very young guy when he got to the policy planning staff. He was in his mid-20s. Young kid. He was brought in to essentially provide a young person's view on how to do this sort of work. And he would form movements.org for, student movements and young people movements, particularly in the Middle East and Central Asia. These big conflict zone places,
Yes.
During the Bush era. And he looked around at these 40, 50, 60-year-olds on the policy planning staff and said, you guys are completely out of touch. Everyone in these countries are using this new social media, which had just come out. Facebook came out in 2004.
Yep.
YouTube came out in 2005. Twitter came out in 2006. 2007 was the year the smartphone came out. iPhone 1.
Yep.
And he said, this thing is lightning in a bottle. We want to get people mobilized. This is the biggest mobilization force on earth. We can use this to foment revolution, start parties. This was the party starter in Tunisia in the Arab Spring. This was the party starter in Egypt. Yes, they were Facebook revolutions, Twitter revolutions. And so the Central Intelligence Agency and USAID were so inspired by this Arab Spring, they wanted to get a Cuban Spring, a street revolution using social media in Cuba. The problem was Cuba at the time had banned Twitter. So it was blocked. It was a criminal offense for VPNs. Attempts had been unsuccessful to try to get a node to do that. So what they did is and if you go back to the Wikipedia, you'll see how dirty this is. Zinzaneo. Yeah. So this whole thing was structured in order to make it look like it was by Cubans for Cubans. That way, it would not trigger the counterintelligence capacities of Cuba. It would not be banned under the Twitter ban. It would look like it was set up by Cubans as a social media networking site for Cubans, but it was secretly created for, funded by, and backed by USAID. And you'll see what they did is they took it was funded by millions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer funds concealed as humanitarian funds designated for Pakistan. Now, Julian, I don't know if you've seen a world map lately, but
It's right there. Yeah, that one's actually from the 80s. That's a bad example. I'm sorry. It's an old club.
well, I'm looking at that globe right here, and I can't even see. I see Pakistan. I can't even see Cuba. I can't even tell you how hard the CIA runs the rap game. It's insane. The State Department just recently brought 22 hip hop artists from all these different conflict zones. I can walk you through in Bangladesh how USAID was funding rap musicians, reporting back to the State Department about how the songs were designed to create street protests, producing their music videos. We can even watch some of these music videos if you want to get this.
You're talking about ones from other countries right now.
Yeah. I can show you the internal document.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it. That's why you're here. Let's go.
But just stick with this for 1 sec because I wanted to show you make this really clean.
This guy's a fire hose. I love it so much here. It's
Okay,
awesome.
so they get these two contractors at USAID. So again, that's the money coming from us as taxpayers from our income tax to USAID, then subcontracted down into two different levels of subcontractors who are then funneling the money through a Byzantine layer of Cayman Islands offshore bank accounts, which, by the way, was a structure that was originally conceived of by the Central Intelligence Agency. You can look up a guy named Paul Hellawell, who was the CIA's lead lawyer during the Cold War. Just type in on a new tab, Paul Hellawell, CIA Castle Bank and Trust.
To me, a rat, an informant, an agent is somebody who's working for the government to go against our best interest. So from my perspective, this essentially to me showcased that a lot of these rappers, these gangster rappers, these street dudes who are dropping music, who we know is degenerate, who we know is literally a social construct to rot our society from within or to rot us or to remove our consciousness. We know this. And I don't care if they're doing this knowingly or unknowingly or if they know they agents or they don't know they agents, bro. You still a rat regardless of not if you think you are. And that's just a fact. Yo, music is so potent that you can't play the same song on the radio more than 3 times in a row. You know why? Because that music will literally is hypnosis. If you play it more than 4 times, after the first time you could hate a song. By the 10th listen, it's your favorite song in the world. You know why? Because it's hypnosis, it's hypnotic. So when rappers like Future tell us, man, I ain't never done drugs in my life, bro. I just rap about it and make it sound cool. We sort of overlook that statement. That right there is the clear example of informant and agent work. This man said he don't listen, he don't do drugs. He's never done drugs. He don't even know what drugs feel like. But yet he raps about it and convinces your 14-year-old little brother that doing drugs is cool. And now he's doing drugs because Future is rapping about it, but Future ain't never done drugs before. That's somebody who's being used as a tool to destroy society. And not just society, our society. So if you need any more proof, bro, that these rappers are agents, informants, and rats, bro, then I don't know what else you need, bro. This right here is clear proof. They're government agents, bro. But let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think, man? All right. Do y'all believe that the CIA is involved in rap, that we're being controlled? These rappers are government agents? Let me know in the comment section, okay? What do you guys think about this? And if you're still watching, click on this video right here somewhere on my screen to find out how Whack 100 exposed that ended this Kingpin's career on Vlad TV. I'm going to see you guys in this video somewhere on my screen. Out of here, folks. Peace.